Sagat, the Muay Thai legend of Street Fighter, one of the more prolific legacy characters in Street Fighter history that's coincidentally missing from Street Fighter 6, like quite a few old school characters are, to be quite honest. So today I've been tasked with seeing what an actual redesign of Sagat would look like, so let's see if I can do him any justice. Okay, I got requested to do a redesign of Sagat. Honestly, it's always weird with me, kind of hit or miss doing these Street Fighter designs as opposed to like Mortal Kombat or Tekken. Just because Street Fighter designs are sort of tricky in general. Most Street Fighter characters don't go through tremendous changes throughout history, and even if they do, they're not anything really drastic. Sagat definitely being one of those characters. But in Street Fighter 6, everybody's pretty much gotten a facelift. So I really had to put my thinking cap on this time to try to come out with a design that sort of did him any type of like reasonable good for Street Fighter 6. Not to mention the fact that I recently did a Fahkumram redesign for Tekken 8, and trying to figure out a Muay Thai design that hasn't already been used by somebody in some sort of fighting game is way harder than I actually thought it was going to be on the surface. So I was waiting to have the same dilemma for Sagat, but his is an entirely different one. It's been said and pointed out to me in a recent Viper redesign that I did that most Street Fighter designs stick more towards where the character is in the story more so than actually doing a interesting or rather unique looking design in the first place. So keeping that in mind, I wanted to go ahead and do Sagat's redesign sort of with him focused after the events of Street Fighter V on encountering the Satsu no Shado and dealing with Kage for the first time, dismissing all the times he's fought Eva Ryu, but whatever. Sagat sort of learning the power of nothingness and sort of purging his body and mind of the evil. I wanted to design a more enlightened, or at least a more wise and seasoned looking Sagat than we've seen in the past. Sagat has always looked like what he is, a Muay Thai fighter. He's always looked like he's ready for combat. I wanted slightly less of a look for that, staying true to the sort of look and feel of him at the same time. Kind of hard to do when it's just a guy in shorts with an eye patch, but I gave it a shot. Here's what I came up with.
Your fists were mute. They had no soul. I was once empty like you.
Okay, so I initially gave Sagat a very simple pose. I've always, for some reason, wanted Sagat in a hood, but my instincts kind of told me not to do that. A, because I put the towel on my Fahkumram design, and B, M. Bison's new look in Street Fighter 6 looks insane. And I didn't want to start venturing too close to that design when working on Sagat, but I couldn't help myself. I had to give him a hood of some kind. And then I also wanted Sagat to look old too. I like one of the Street Fighter V alternates that had Sagat with facial hair or some kind of a beard. I almost at first just gave him hair around like a beard around his chin, but eventually I just decided to give him a full beard, seeing as that it would make him look, I don't know, older and like he's just been out training and fighting for the longest time, like he hasn't shaved or anything, I don't know. Made him look more monkish or more like he's been going through something. More like a fighter on a journey than anything else. If I'm being perfectly honest, this is almost the most Ryu-like Sagat design I think I could end up doing, because that's almost the thought process I had with the character, like a former Muay Thai fighter that's just been out learning about himself and life rather than dedicating himself to trying to hurt people and just train and fight or whatever, and staying away from Shado too. Also, as bad as I wanted to, I stayed away from actually giving him shorts, so I gave him the designs with his hand wraps. I figured there was some type of staples for Sagat that I needed to keep, almost like he would be wearing his shorts or whatever underneath this, but I didn't want that to be his design by itself, because I figured it looks like every other Sagat design in history, and I wanted to do something that looked somewhat different for him. So I gave him long pants, but some that looked monkish, and then because of Sagat, I gave him somewhat of a tiger design too on one of the sides of his pants. I thought that would be cool. There's no other reason other than that why I gave it to him. Like I said, just things that resonated with Sagat even though it wouldn't traditionally look like him. So I did his feet wraps and tied that together, and I pretty much had the base for the design so I could go ahead and start with my line art, and I went on from there. At this point, before I continue, I'd like to ask you all, if you haven't already, to go ahead and like and subscribe if you like the content. I got a bunch of fighting game and art related content on my channel in general. If you like it, I generally appreciate the feedback. But enough of that, getting back to the video. So after completing the line art for Sagat, it was on to coloring him. At that point was when the realization hit in that I didn't really have a thought process behind how I was going to color this man. I played with a bunch of different color schemes. I eventually settled on the tiger's look on one side and then sort of like a white print on the other. For the top though, I couldn't figure out how I necessarily wanted it to look. For the purposes of the design, I had it as a tannish color over time. I switched it from the blue that I initially gave him. I went back and forth quite a few times, so you let me know whether or not the tan look would necessarily look better than the actual blue that I gave him. But I don't know, the tan felt like it would make more sense for the design that I gave him and why, but I just like the blue look more. But I gave him a somewhat simple color scheme in terms for what his design was, and then I went ahead and started shading. Shading him was easy enough. Like I said, it was a very simple pose, and Sagat's a big dude, so it wasn't like I had a whole bunch to really think about going forward there. Most of the thought would just have to go into how I shaded around his hood and whatnot, but that was pretty simple. After that, I went ahead and did the highlights, did all the details there, and did my specular highlights. Once again, most of the shine on his body would be around his face and his muscles. After that, he was done, and I had this brand new Sagat design. Once again, I'll let you guys be the judges to whether or not the tan look is better for this than the blue one that I gave him, but I like how it came out. Nonetheless, I do think it's a really unique Sagat look, and not giving him the eye patch and the wrap around the eye I think was a cool touch too. But that's just me tooting my own horn. Let me know what you think in the comments below on how you feel about it, and whether or not you feel like Sagat needs to make a return in Street Fighter 6 or not. Who knows, maybe they bring add-on back or something crazy. It's Capcom. But in any event, as I said before, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and you all have a good one, and I'm out.
Battle! Fight!